Hey there friends, Dave Paulides, CanAm Missing Project. Got right edition for our video channel. This is the executive producer, Huck. She's here monitoring our progress in the studio, making sure we do everything correct. Belly rubs, scratches, head scratches. Oh, right down the middle there, Dad. Oh, that's so good. Yeah, too good, Bob. Too good, girl. So, today, we're going to talk about one case that has big repercussions, big ones. And for the people in Canada, right out of my book, Missing 411 Canada, this story is about something that many of you have asked about. Dave, how many military people go disappear? Well, that's a good question. And then what's the relationship to your other books? Well, that's another good question. And who investigates if somebody goes missing in the military? Yeah, all good questions. We're going to delve deep into this today. Now, we're in the middle of the summer, and there's 3 or 4 cases of missing people that are going on as we speak. And they're at a variety of locations, one in Utah, one in California, one in Washington, and they're all a little different. And I've been monitoring all of them, waiting to see if there's some resolution, and there isn't as of yet. I would say right now, there's as many people missing as I can ever remember at any one time when we speak of different locations. Right now I'm speaking end of August, early September. Now, as a reminder, I'm going to be in Vernal, Utah, that first weekend in September. Phenomicon. Huge conference. If you can get there, if you live in Wyoming, Washington, Utah, Colorado, you need to get there. It's going to be a really good conference, and I've got 2 presentations. I'm making 2 different big presentations on Missing 411 and on Bigfoot. So to get them both in one location is very rare, and I can't remember the last time I did that. Huck's already had enough. Thank you, girl. I don't usually do that. And then I've got the Bigfoot cruise later in September. And then in November, I'm going to be in Washington at a giant Bigfoot conference. And that Washington conference, I think, is in the 2nd or 3rd weekend in November at Quinault. And that one also will be huge, probably 2,000 people. On that one, it's me and Dr. Meldrum, so fireworks ought to be good. Yeah, we do have differing opinions as to what the world is like, so that's my agenda for the rest of the year. Busy in September, nothing in October, 1 in November. So let's get going on this case here, because it's a long one with a lot of turns in the road. Case involves this young man. I'm going to do something I don't normally do. I'm going to put his picture over my shoulder, and I want you all to look at it the entire time while I'm talking. This one hit me really hard. Really hard. One of the first cases I investigated when we were looking at missing people, because it fits so many of the profile points. Young man's name was Joe Goveas, 21 years old, missing October 22nd, 2003. From Kingston, Ontario. That's where the incident happened. At the Royal Canadian Military Academy. It sits at the far northeast end of Lake Ontario. And folks, I've had many missing persons cases from around Lake Ontario. Location was 160 miles southwest of Montreal. It's the only military college for Canadian military. Now it sits on right at Navy Bay, and down here is Lake Ontario. Cataraqui River flows here, and Kingston is right over the bridge right here. This is the military academy on this peninsula. Beautiful piece of land. It's kind of like the West Point for Canada. Couldn't have a more beautiful place. Now, if you remember me discussing missing 411, a sobering coincidence, this case almost crosses all the T's and dots the I's. Joe Goveas, in 2003, was in his junior year at the military college. He was doing very, very well. He was just elected squadron leader, and it's like the premier position for a cadet. He was also doing extremely well academically, and he played on the college's basketball team at a varsity level as a junior. Pretty impressive. He was the absolute profile of everything you'd want in a young military officer. Prior to coming into the military academy, he was born in Chatham, Ontario, September 11th, 1982. And I know a lot of you guys follow the date of birth, so there you have it, September 11th, 82. Graduated with honors from Ridgetown District High School. Played volleyball, soccer, badminton, and basketball through high school. In 2002, he completed the Basic Officer Training School for the military. And he was studying business administration, where he was an honor student and then top 10 in his class. He was also the squadron's sports officer. And everyone said that Joe had a warm and caring smile. Military school. They expect you to perform. They expect you to be of the highest ethics. And they expect you to be a good person. Respect for your commanders and respect for your peers. Just like West Point is considered the cream of the crop, well, Canada thought this as well about this school. And to get into it, you had to perform. Well, Joe did. Graduated with honors from high school. Played sports. This is the exact mindset and profile that they want in their officers. As I'm studying this and I'm going through this, I'm thinking, my gosh, that could have been me. There was a time when I was getting out of high school where I thought, well, should I go to the military or should I just go to college? I ended up going to college. Instead of going to the military, I went to the police. Well, October 22nd, 2003, at 1 a.m., Joe was in his dorm room on campus, and he was working on a paper for his law class. Joe had a girlfriend named Melissa, and Melissa was in the academy with him. And she was in his room at 1 a.m., and she fell asleep while Joe was working on the paper. Seems completely normal. Well, she wakes up at 5:30 in the morning. And Joe was gone, but his cell phone, wallet, and watch were still laying on his desk where he was studying. Stop right there. How many 21-year-old men would leave and go anywhere without their phone? Tell me. I don't think many. He obviously wasn't going out to buy anything. He wasn't going out to travel. He didn't have his watch or his wallet or his phone, so he didn't know what time it would be. Critical things. So Melissa gets ready, and at 6 a.m., she got her items together and left for breakfast and classes. Her and Joe were tight. She knew this wasn't his normal behavior. So throughout the day, she kept coming back to the dorm, checking to see if he had checked in. Picked up his books, gone to school. He hadn't. And she knew something was really wrong. So the next big milestone was at 4:30, Joe's basketball team had practice. Something he would never miss. He'd never miss classes, but basketball practice, never, ever. Well, she went there and she looked around and Joe wasn't on the floor. Asked some of the players if they'd seen him. No, they hadn't. So she walked off the floor, contacted Joe's squadron officer, and filed a formal missing persons report. And friends, this is a big, big deal. This is much bigger than if you were in college and your girlfriend filed a missing person report with the local police department. No, this is huge. As a military cadet, you disappear, and they find you later, you better have some really good excuses. Otherwise, they're going to kick you out. So she knew, by reporting him, she knew all the consequences, but she also knew that this wasn't Joe. He'd never done anything like this. Well, the report goes through. Now, because it was on a military installation, and this was military grounds, the military handled the initial part of the investigation, which means that they searched the grounds, the buildings, the water, the dorms, and then they went back through and searched it a second and a third time. They didn't find anything. Nothing. Then military personnel had already confiscated his computer and they went through it. And then they decided that they better contact Ontario and Kingston police. Reason being? Well, Kingston was just across the bridge. Maybe he went over there at night and something happened. They didn't know. And then the Greater Ontario Police, they just needed to know and maybe they could help. Put flyers up, etc. Kingston hadn't seen him. Nobody had seen him. They were running into dead ends at every turn. Yeah, that's talking. The formal military investigation was handled by the National Investigative Services Branch of the Canadian military. Soon after it was determined that Joe was not around, they contacted the parents to see, obviously, if they'd heard from him. No, they hadn't. They stated Joe had never done this. They stated it was completely out of character. They were absolutely stunned. In those very early stages, the military and the police had very little to go on. They didn't know quite what to think. When you have a squadron leader who supposedly is one of your best soldiers, best students, best athlete, just disappear, what is going on? Again, the profile on Joe, clean cut, no issues, athlete, future star military officer, got tested for drugs routinely, never showed a dirty test. They didn't think that he would leave to go buy drugs because he had never been known to use drugs. His girlfriend said he never used them. They were stunned. And I asked myself about this time, what would I think happened? I already know what happened. I'd written 25 stories for Missing 411, a sobering coincidence. I would have bet $10,000 I knew what was going to happen. I'll leave that to you. So that military college sits on that peninsula with the Cataraqui River on one side, west side, and the lake on the south side. The river enters the lake right here. So this has a flow to it. Keep that in mind. 22 days after Joe goes missing, November 13th, 2003, his body is found floating in the river. It's recovered. It's sent to the Kingston coroner. Several days later, the coroner comes back and says they cannot determine the cause of death. How many times have you heard that from me? I've told you before, I'll tell you again. When Ben was in hockey, I was on the far eastern coast of the U.S. Somebody watches me. Happened to be a coroner at a very big coroner's office. And they said, Dave, we'd like to meet with you. Sure. Before one of Ben's games, met in my hotel. We started talking. And this person works for a big coroner's office on the East Coast. They said, Dave, you are on to something. These cases where you can't determine the cause of death, and they haven't, we've known about this for a long time. We all talk about it when it happens. We are scientists. We should be able to figure out the cause of death. It doesn't make any sense. Something very unusual is happening. And they said, hey, we want you to come and give a talk at our National Coroners Conference. I said, sure. Make a long story short, they had me submit a presentation and I wasn't invited. Maybe they thought I was too boring, too mundane. But this coroner was head of a big office and they wanted me to inform the other coroners about what's going on. So this isn't an isolated incident, folks. And it's bugging coroners all over the world. Now, there were very few specific details released on the condition of Joe's body, except that it had suffered some decomposition. And about this time, rumors started to go all over that campus in Kingston that Joe took his own life. But the coroners couldn't prove it. Okay. Let's start off with something. When you take your own life, you have to end it somehow. Pills, drowning, hanging, gunshot, strangulation, suffocation. Somehow you have to do it. Well, if the coroner in a pretty large area can't determine what you did, I don't think you did it. Just saying. That dog doesn't hunt. Well, when those rumors started to go around, his mom and dad started to get upset. Rightly so. They stated there was no way Joe took his own life. He was happy, successful, and everything in his life was going the right way. Which was true. No troubles, no issues. So at the first coroner's inquest, this is different than in the States. Coroner's inquest is like a public investigation where they determine the cause of death, etc., and they let the public see all the evidence they had. Well, at that coroner's inquest, they call in Joe's girlfriend. And she tells a story that while Joe was alive, in great confidence, Joe told her that he tried to kill himself when he was in high school. He said that he was depressed over a girlfriend breaking up with him, and he went home and took a bunch of pills and alcohol and subsequently threw them all up. Wasn't successful. Now let's pretend that that's what Joe did this time, except the pills were in his system. So when you get that amount of pills in your system, it stays in your system after death. Liver, blood, urine, you could find it. But they didn't find anything. Well, after Joe disappeared, there were over 200 reports in Ontario and Kingston of people that reported seeing him. Now, one thing, because you're a very smart group of people, and you've heard me say it over and over and over again, when people go missing and they put up wanted posters of Joe, everyone starts to see him. And I'm not saying that these are bad people, but they see things. 99.99% of the time when you get one of these reports, it's not the person. But still, you have to go check. And they checked. He was never seen, that they could confirm. There was a lot of questions surrounding Joe's death. Allegations Porter didn't do a good job, allegations there was a cover-up, allegations that he was beat to death, allegations he had broken bones, everything you can imagine. So something really, really rare happened. They exhumed his body, meaning they took it out of the ground and they went back through and did a second autopsy. That was in November 2004. And this time they had an independent medical examiner in attendance. That would be somebody who was maybe paid by the family, paid by the college, who had nothing to do with the initial investigation, wasn't part of the province, and would come to his own conclusion with no ramifications. Well, they exhumed the body, no broken bones. They looked for drugs and alcohol again. None were found in his system. And the second inquest completed, unknown cause of death. Same conclusion as the first. Now, at this point, they had 3 different law enforcement agencies involved. Military police, Kingston police, Ontario police. There were some things that they did release about the body. They said that Joe had a slightly chipped tooth and a bruised lip. People said, oh, he must have gotten in a fight. No, that's not what it means. If I dropped you on the ground, face first, you most likely chip your tooth. If you were dead and you were rolling downstream and your face with the current hit a rock, could break your tooth. A lot of things could happen. Meant nothing. He had no other injuries to his body, just that. Then there were other allegations. Oh, he must have been kidnapped, abducted, dumped in the river. Key point, dumped in the river, not in the lake. A river has flow. Lakes usually have some flow, but not like a river. He had to have entered upstream from where he was found. questions I had about this. What would cause him to leave his room at 1 a.m.? Well, say go to the bathroom. I wouldn't take my phone. I wouldn't take my wallet if I went to the bathroom. And that seemed to be one of the logical things that would cause him to leave at 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. in that window of time between when Melissa first or last saw him and then when she woke up at 5:30. Now, Joe was regularly tested for drugs by the military. None was ever found. He left without his cell phone, keys, and wallet. Key points. What was never stated is what he was found wearing when his body was found. The exact language that the coroner used on this was really odd. They stated that cause of death, unascertained, non-natural drowning. Really means he didn't die of natural causes. Let me say that again. Unascertained, non-natural death. Unascertained, non-natural death. Drowning did not appear anywhere in a coroner's report. Drowning was used multiple times in articles, with some of them implying he drowned. But friends, there's no evidence Joe drowned. None. Multiple inquests, multiple autopsies, he didn't drown. But there was one article that said something very unusual. Sun Media article, March 29th, 2007. Joe's body was missing for 22 days. One pathologist testified in an inquest. Quote, the body's condition was consistent with being in the water 1 to 2 weeks. Boom. You don't hear this very often. You don't see this very often. And coroners and pathologists rarely are willing to do this. This flies in the face with the evidence they have. What do I mean by that? Joe was missing for 22 days, over 3 weeks. Pathologist says he was in the water for 1 to 2 weeks. Where was he the balance of that time? If there was no foul play, where was he? Come on, folks. Be that critical thinker. This is why Joe's death bothers me. Number one, everybody was unwilling to address that specific freaking point because it's uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable. This case matches dozens of others that I wrote about missing 411, a sobering coincidence. Where's the journalists in the world? Investigative journalists. Why isn't this a front page story all across the nation? Why aren't other coroners picking this up and being concerned about it and talking about it at their conferences? Come on, ladies and gentlemen, get off your butt. Based just on facts. No theories. No great, huge hypothesis. Just facts. The mysterious nature of this case is a 10. You have a man at 21. It's going to be one of the top military people in the country that just disappears. Not normal. And then he's found weeks later in the water, matching all these cases I've already written about. Where's the intellectual curiosity of these people that we call the press? damn. Yeah, I could write a good book. I could write a factual story. But somebody needs to take the ball and run it. I can't run it all by myself. Somebody's listening here. Thank you. We've got thunderstorms in the area. Maybe somebody is listening. So the profile points. College man. Athlete. Point of separation between he and Melissa. He's found in water. No witnesses to him going in the water. An unknown cause of death. And his time in the water doesn't match the time he was missing. Friends, you've got it all right there. If there's one case that I ask you to spread throughout your social media, this is it. Something needs to be done. There's going to be more great men like this that are going to disappear. You just watch. It's already happening. In the last year, we've already had it multiple times. I get a little angry sometimes. I'm sorry. But what I see frustrates the heck out of me. You can watch my 3 movies. Missing 411, Missing 411, The Hunted, Missing 411, The UFO Connection. We watch them all on Tubi for free. Also watch them on Apple TV for free. Please spread that around. You can buy my books, including the book this came out of Missing 411 Canada, at our website, NA, like North America, NABigfootsearch.com. Don't buy them on Etsy or Amazon. You'll get ripped off. $25 to $30 on our site. They're charging up to $150. Remember, we're in the kindness revolution. We need to be kind to one another in these times of great stress and strife. Be that person that if you were walking and watching from a distance, you go, oh, that person's a nice person. Be nice. Smile. Hey, how you doing? Pray for the Grozelles. That family lost a great young man. Joe Goveas. Rest in peace.